Hello and welcome. I'm Brian Kaplan, editor of The Banker. We're at the IMF annual meetings, and I'm with Briget Polichene, who's the Chief Executive of the Institute of International Bankers. Now, Briget, we've got the IIF meeting running along, the Institute of International Finance. So tell me how IIB is different from IIF.
So the IIB represents the U.S. operations of foreign banks. So we represent foreign banks operating in the United States. The IIF, of course, is representing banks operating globally.
Okay, got it. All right. Foreign banks in the US think they have a bad deal, don't they? I mean, we've written lots of stories about how they feel the regulator discriminates against them. I mean, is that fair comment, or is that a wrong interpretation?
U.S. law requires, there's a statutory mandate for national treatment and equality of competitive opportunity for foreign banks operating in the United States. And while I think the Fed is taking steps, including the recent tailoring proposal, to help get us there, we aren't quite there yet. Two major impediments, I think, to reaching that nirvana of national treatment. We believe U.S. regulation fails to fully take into account robust home country regulation.
So it sort of assumes that you come as a blank sheet of paper and
Exactly.
the Fed writes everything down that you have to do.
Exactly. So, for example, intermediate holding companies of foreign banks operating here in the United States have the full panoply of U.S. regulation, but their parent holding company, the parent organization, is also subject to much of that exact same regulation at the parent level. And as you can imagine, that creates a competitive inequality for those foreign banks operating here vis-a-vis their U.S. peers.
Okay, now you mentioned the tailoring rule, so that's a recent thing that the Fed's brought out. So explain to me how that's going to make things better.
So the good news of the tailoring proposal, something that the IIB long advocated for, is that the U.S. regulation should focus on the size and risk attributes of foreign banks operating in the U.S. instead of the global size and risk. It makes sense. The tailoring proposal went a step in that direction, and we were very happy about that.
Okay.
I think there's still two impediments for
banks in the US, yeah.
Correct. And that would be, one is, as I mentioned, even under the tailoring proposal, they don't take into account home country regulation fully. And then the second specific problem that we have raised is the risk factors that are used to categorize the foreign banks to determine what regulation they'll be subject to in the U.S. Same risk factors used for the U.S. banks don't take into account a unique aspect of foreign banks, which is they have a lot of transactions with their
and they don't
affiliates.
have a lot of branches.
Many of them do not have retail branches, right? They're here operating as wholesale banks, securities operations, capital markets. And these risk attributes treat transactions with affiliates, with the parent or foreign affiliates, as if they were with unaffiliated third parties.
I got you.
They function as if there's more risk than there is.
Okay, all right, so we're getting somewhere on the regulations.
Yes.
Now, how attractive is the US to foreign banks? I mean, do the regulations make it unattractive, or are the opportunities so good here that they want to come and invest anyway?
What our members will tell you is the U.S. remains a very, very attractive growth market for them, and they're very committed to the U.S. So I would describe it as what the regulations do is operate as a constraint on further investment and growth. Cost of regulation, that disproportionate, just makes it harder for them to commit and grow here to the extent they would.
Okay.
Foreign banks are huge contributors to the U.S. economy nationally and at the state level, and they want to continue to do more.
So you're just going to do that little bit extra on the regulation, and then the world is your opportunity in the U.S.
We can make it better here, so we could grow more here.
Okay, Briget, thanks very much. And if you get it all right on the regulatory front, it's going to be a great opportunity for foreign banks in the US.
That's right.
Have a great conference.
Thank you, Brian.